But yesterday, the White House said there would be, the United States would not take part in any no-fly zone because that could bring us into an actual shooting war. Let's bring in Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw, member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee and a former Navy SEAL. Dan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so it's daunting. There's a 40-mile column of tanks and armored vehicles leading toward Kiev or Kyiv. It's just a matter of time before they circle the city, and then they will slowly try to strangle it. The one bit of good news is apparently there's something like 70 Ukrainian pilots in Poland at this hour, picking up 70 donated fighter jets from European countries, including older Russian-made planes, like 28 from Poland, 12 from Slovakia, and 30 from Bulgaria. So if the Ukrainian Air Force is going to have a fighting chance, this is going to help them.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm glad to see a lot of EU members stepping up. I still think they can do more, of course. I mean, you've got Russia right on your doorstep. Yeah. And this is a fight for your life. I think a lot of people denied that right up until the moment it happened, but it is clearly the case now. The EU has agreed to look at Ukrainians' EU membership. That could be significant. That does require some kind of assistance to them. So I think Russia, I think Putin in particular, has clearly miscalculated. This is a bigger fight than they anticipated. They've lost thousands of troops. If the estimates are even close to true, that's more than we ever lost in Afghanistan. And we need to continue to make this as painful as possible for them with the kind of lethal aid that we're talking about and the economic pain that we're inflicting on them.
Yeah. Congressman, there was a special session of the UN General Assembly, and the Ukrainian ambassador stood up and read text messages. These are texts from a soldier. The mother of that soldier, he's Russian, the mother of that soldier thought that her son was training in Crimea. Turns out he is on the front lines in Ukraine, and these are the text messages between the two of them just before he was killed.
I would like to read from the screenshot of the smartphone of a killed Russian soldier.
Why has it been so long since you responded?
Вы точно на учениях?
Are you really in training exercises?
Спрашивает мать убитого солдата.
Asks the mother of the killed soldier.
Моменты перед тем, как он был убит.
Before he was killed.
Мама, я на Украине.
I'm in Ukraine.
Тут настоящая война.
There is a real war raging
Мне
here.
страшно.
I'm afraid.
Мы бьем по всем городам.
We are bombing
подряд.
All of the cities
Даже по мирным
together,
жителям.
even targeting civilians.
Нам сказали, что они
We
нас
were
будут
told
приветствовать.
that they would welcome us.
А они кидаются под нашу технику.
They are falling under
И не
our
дают
armored
проехать.
vehicles, throwing themselves under the wheels and not allowing us to
Называют
pass.
нас фашистами.
They call us fascists.
Мама, мне очень тяжело.
Mama, this is so
In
hard.
several moments he was killed.
And this was several moments before he was killed.
Congressman, what I gather from that, they thought that we would be welcome into their country, and that's not the case. So is it Putin's regime that's telling these soldiers they're going to welcome you, go fight for our country, they want you there, and then also targeting civilians? You can tell the soldier didn't realize what he was getting into.
Yeah, we've heard various accounts like that. This goes to show the depth of the deception that Putin has incurred, not just on the rest of the world, but on his own people. You're seeing uprisings in Russia against this war. I think regular Russian civilians are seeing this for what it is. And Putin has lost his way quite a bit here, and he's losing domestic support. And this is what we need to capitalize on. He doesn't really care if he loses international support. This is not something Putin cares about. But he certainly cares about domestic support and whether his propaganda is actually working. And we need to continue to pull this thread. We need to continue to pull this thread, incur the costs on Putin, and turn the Russian people against him.
Congressman, everyone respects the valor that the Ukrainians are fighting with, but the word is they only have about a week or two left of Stinger missiles, of Javelin missiles. They need it. And right now we can't get everything through the air. It's got to be on the ground, most of which is going to come through Poland. But guess who knows that? The Russians know that. And they're already sending choppers there. So it's going to be very dangerous delivering food, water, and guns and ammunition and lethal aid. Now, the Washington Post reporting this 3 minutes ago that Kharkiv remains under Ukrainian control, but is thoroughly surrounded, and they are bracing for an all-out assault. We just told you about the caravan that goes 40 miles deep. They look like they're going to do the same thing. What do you think the people of Kharkiv should be braced for, judging by the Russians' tactics in the past?
Well, urban warfare is going to be terrible. The Russians don't seem to have any kind of restraint on what kind of tactics they're willing to use. They've done this in the past. I mean, the only good news here is that Russian soldiers are having second thoughts. I would also say that they're not good at fighting at night. This is something we've learned by watching them over the last week or so. And civilians can take advantage of that. But guerrilla warfare is also very scary for the people, for the Russian soldiers as well. Ukrainian people can take solace in that. But again, this is why I say EU has to step up. The European Union, these powers in Europe, have to step up with more aid, getting more aggressive with getting that aid in there. We have to be aggressive with getting that aid, those Stinger missiles, those Javelins in there. Those are very effective against Russian these are questions that we've been asking the Secretary of Defense. They say at least 800 were delivered over the weekend. These will be very devastating to Russia, but we need to continue to push that.
Are they going to do a carpet bomb, Berlin style, 1948?
I don't know. I wouldn't put anything past Putin right now. Right. But I do fear that as he begins to lose, he will engage in this scorched earth campaign. It is harder than he thought, which is again why I say the European Union has to step up for their neighbor. They have to step up for their neighbor because they can reverse this with enough aid if it's getting to the right place at the right time.
It just takes time, and that's something the people of Ukraine just don't have as they are circling the cities. Congressman, are you going to the State of the Union tonight?
Well, I don't have time to get tested. They want everybody to get tested, right. So I'm going to try.
Okay, because now the news is you don't need to wear the mask, which is progress. Apparently, the president's speechwriters had to throw out the speech they had done a week ago because world events have changed it. And apparently, he will talk about the Russia invasion and how the United States was able to rally the world. Apparently, he's going to talk about inflation. He's going to talk about, the cost to Americans. And once again, he's going to push Build Back Better. And he's going to say, I know that Americans are hurting, but you pass Build Back Better and prices are actually going to go down. So he's going to press you guys in Congress to do more.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so first of all, Zelensky rallied the world, not Joe Biden. Joe Biden's feckless leadership possibly led up to this. The world has allowed Russia to capture an increasingly larger share of the energy markets and therefore become dependent on Russia and embolden them to do this right now. Now, mistakes were made in the past. The question is, what can you do in the future? And Biden will refuse tonight to even acknowledge the fact that American energy dominance would prevent this kind of thing in the future. Because, look, there's two things that prevent war: credible threat of force and leverage. And when it comes to leverage with Russia, we're talking about energy markets. And America needs to be producing more oil and gas, more nuclear, and more oil and gas that Europe needs so that they don't have to rely on Russia, and Russia can't hold everybody hostage in situations like this.
So I know Zelensky's wanting to join the EU. He wants to be admitted. They're saying it takes time. We can't do it quickly. He addressed the European Parliament earlier this morning. We had it live. But if you weren't watching, let me show you and the audience a clip.
We are showing everybody the European Union is going to be much stronger with us, so that's for sure. We have proven our strengths. We are exactly the same. Do prove that you are with us. Life will win over death, and light will win over darkness. Glory be to Ukraine.
And then he said, do not let us go. He stood up, raised his arm, and then everyone in the audience gave him a standing ovation. Do you know the process of the EU? Could they just allow Ukraine to be a part of that quickly?
Short answer, no, I don't know. I'm not an expert in this field, and I'm not sure what the process is. But like I said before, I'm happy to see the EU standing up to this. I mean, previously neutral countries looking to stand up to this. It looks like Putin's calculations were totally wrong, that we may increase NATO membership. Looks like they're going to possibly increase EU membership, which is exactly the opposite of what Putin wanted. And again, Joe Biden has to stand up to this. Instead of saying that, oh, well, this is a lesson where we need to move to cleaner, cleaner energy, solar and wind. Okay, look, here's a very clear message for Joe Biden. Okay, climate change is not killing scores of Ukrainians. The Russians are. And the way you stop the Russians is you remove their leverage. It really is that simple. So when Alaska says we can produce more oil, let them produce more oil. When we have multiple export facilities that could be permitted to produce more LNG exports right now, allow those 6 permits to go through the DOE. I mean, there are very simple things that we can start to do right now. Stop this moratorium on lease sales, for instance. I mean, there's plenty of things that we can do so that within the next few months to a year, we can start to overtake that market share from Russia and remove their leverage. We should have done it years ago, but we are where we are right now. And at least you could acknowledge the problem.
Hey, Congressman, we have imported more gasoline and refined petroleum products than any other nation in the world from Russia. We're going way over in 2021 where we were in 2020. So if you want to impact Russia, immediately change that policy, and you can announce that tonight.
Exactly. Exactly. And I just laid out a couple steps that would be very simple. I mean, the one I forgot was the Keystone Pipeline, of course.
Sure.
Approve the Keystone Pipeline. That thing would have brought in 830,000 barrels a day. We import around average of almost 600,000 from Russia. So that import from Canada would be more. And Canada, by the way, has just announced that they will stop imports from Russia. So, look, we have to be able to do the same thing and make that case to the American people. This is war. The Russians have started a war, right? We're not talking about, escalation. We're not talking about whether they will or they won't or whether they'll invade Kyiv. They have. They've done it. And the world is rallying behind Zelensky. Right. And instead of leading, Biden is sort of just maybe following, maybe tiptoeing around it.
And to your earlier point, if we did that, that would give us leverage. But then again, it's politics, and the president's far left base would revolt because he can't do that. He did it the right way the first day. You're from the state of Texas. Polls now open. First primary of the 2022 election cycle. What's your prediction on how this is going to go?
Well, we'll see. I'm actually curious about how Democrats will go. I mean, you saw AOC trying to unseat people like Henry Cuellar, like Lloyd Doggett. I mean, there's that war in the Democrat Party is also pretty interesting. On our side, look, I'm really focused on races like Wesley Hunt's, Morgan Luttrell. These are both races that are occurring right in the Houston area, right next to me. And I think everybody should go out and vote for Morgan Luttrell and Wesley Hunt. Let's get them past this without a runoff. They are going to be great members of Congress. Right. And then we'll move on to the general, where I think we can flip at least one seat. Monica de la Cruz is somebody you should have on your radar in South Texas. And that's another great candidate. So I think, look, the Texas delegation is going to be.
All right, Congressman Dan Crenshaw, always great to talk to you.
Thank you, Congressman.